All right, here's 10 self-taping tips that you can use to make your self-tapes for auditions, maybe even a self-tape for an agent or manager, stand out. Number one is use a neutral background. Like, see the background behind me right here? It's dark gray. It's gray, light gray kind of, but it's neutral. You don't see a bunch of books behind me. You don't see a kitchen. You don't see a bedroom. You don't see a bunch of paintings behind me. Let me tell you why you want a neutral background, because you want to stand out. You want to be the center of your self-tape so that when the casting director or the producer or the director, or if you're going for an agent, when they see the tape, they're looking at you. They're not looking at all the stuff in the background. They're not looking at your bookshelf to see what type of books you have. They're not looking at to see what kind of figurines you have on the shelf, or if they see messy stuff in your back room, in your bedroom, or you're shooting in the bathroom and they say things on your bathroom shelf. Once they get bored, if they get bored, or if the stuff behind you is more compelling, they'll start looking at that, believe me. I've cast a lot of projects, and when I start the tape, if I see a lot of clutter or things in the background, I glance at the background and I'm not paying that much attention to the actor or actress. So make sure you use a clean, neutral background. And you want to make sure your frame is correct. A lot of times in the audition notes, you will get that they want you to shoot horizontally. That means hold your camera this way, horizontally. You don't want to shoot vertically unless they ask for it. Sometimes you may get that if you're going for one of the vertical shorts that are pretty popular right now, but most of the time you're going to get a horizontal. They're going to want a horizontal, because if they look at it on television or they look at it on their computer monitor, they want to see as much of you as possible. So make sure you shoot horizontally. Most of the time they're going to ask for that. So hold your camera the correct way. Stabilize your camera. Don't try to shoot it handhold. Don't try to handheld. Don't try to shoot a selfie where you're holding your hand out here and you're trying to do your audition tape. It's not going to be professional. Don't do it where the reader is holding your audition tape off camera. Get a tripod. Tripods are cheap. You can get a tripod on Amazon with a holder for your cell phone for under $20. Sometimes you can even get a used one for cheaper than that. So you need to get yourself a tripod for your self-tapes. And if you don't have one right now and something comes in, stack something up. Stack a bunch of books up and sit your phone on top of that. Don't hand hold it. Do not hand hold your self-tape audition. It needs to be stable. Again, if the camera is moving all around and it's like, you're trying to do an action scene, that's going to distract the viewer. The viewer is going to be looking at that. They're going to be thinking, why didn't this person get a tripod? Why didn't this person stack the camera on a tall stack of books or on a chair or something? Why didn't they stabilize their camera? They're not going to be looking at your audition anymore. So get a tripod and use stable, still shots for every self-tape. Light your face evenly. Make sure your face is lit evenly so there's no shadows. Look at my face. I have a little bit of shadow underneath my neck, but that's natural. You want to have a nice soft light, right? I have my soft light right up here above the camera, and I also have a side light that fills the rest of the light in the room. But you can usually get away with a nice, large, soft light right behind the camera, or right above the camera slightly, so that you're evenly lit. And another reason you're evenly lit, they want to see your whole face. They want to see what you look like. They want to see all of you. They don't want you in the half X-Files, half face lit, moody. They don't want that. They want you, no matter what the scene is, even if it's a scene that is going to be at night, if it's going to be a moody shot, you're not trying to replicate that now. You're trying to present yourself in the best professional light possible for your self-tape. So your face needs to be evenly lit. Do a test shoot to check your audio and to check your picture, but mostly to check your audio, to make sure you're getting strong, clear audio. I just looked down right now to check my audio to make sure the red light was on. I record what's called double system sound. I have a small audio recorder that I use that gives me really great sound, and then I match the audio and the picture in post. But you don't need to do that. You can just record on your phone, as long as you're in like arm's length away from your phone on a tripod. You'll have nice, clean audio. Make sure the room is silent, but do a test. Do a little test to make sure the picture looks good and to make sure the audio sounds loud and clear. Work with a reader. You can, if you don't have anyone who can come over to your place and read with you right off camera. The reader should be right off camera to the left or the right, and that's going to be your eye line like this. You're looking at the reader. You do not look into the lens unless they tell you to look into the lens. So you look at your reader. If your reader is not really left or right, you still look left or right. You pick a spot beyond the camera, left or right, and that's your reader. That's where you look. That's who you deliver the lines to. So make sure if you have a reader and your reader may be on the phone, that's acceptable. You can have your reader call in on a cell phone and put the cell phone on speakerphone, and you and your reader can rehearse, and then you can do the audition. But have your reader off camera. And again, if him or her are on a cell phone, don't look at the cell phone. Look to the left or to the right of the camera, off camera, and just imagine your reader there. Pick something, and that's your reader. So always use a reader. Don't try to think of some kind of ways around it unless you're told just to not have a reader. But most of the time they want you to have a reader. And the reason they want you to have a reader is so they can see how you naturally listen when you are being spoken to in a scene. They want to see that you're actively listening to the reader and responding to the reader. And if you can get an actor or an actress who have acting skills, that's even better, because they can give you something to play off. They can give you some emotions that you can feed off of. So, but if you can't, you can get anybody to read so that they read clearly and they read smoothly. You don't want a reader who's stumbling over the words and hesitating and distracting, because I've had some big auditions where my reader made a mistake, a couple mistakes, and I was surprised that the casting director liked me, but they asked me to do it over again with a different reader. So that was a big, I've been doing this for 34, 35 years, and I was surprised when that happened, because you wouldn't think they'd be paying attention to the reader, but they do. If the reader is distracting, the reader will pull the viewer, who could be the producer or the director, away from your talent and wonder why you're reading with this person who is pronouncing words wrong, stumbling over words, not responding when you finish your dialogue, not listening. So you need a reader. You need to rehearse with your reader to make sure your reader, you're not trying to audition the reader. So you don't need a reader who is a better talent than you, but you need a reader who can effectively give you something and read the words believably and smoothly and respond when they are supposed to respond, not leave you hanging where no response. And when you say something, the reader needs to respond. They don't need to cut you off unless they're supposed to, based on the script, but you need a reader who sounds normal and can deliver the lines normally. Stay contained. Remember, you're on camera. You're not on a big stage where you have to project to the cheap seats in the back of the room. So you don't need to be gigantic big. You don't need gigantic emotions. You don't need gigantic, you're supposed to have this shot framed from chest up to right above your head, and they probably want to see both of your shoulders, just a normal medium headshot. So you don't need to project. You need to talk like if the person is right there beyond the camera. So unless you need to raise your voice because of the scene, but normally you speak in a normal speaking voice. You don't try to project like if you're on stage. So keep your performance contained and believable, as if you're sitting right across from the person and you're talking to them. So that's what you have to do. Pretend that your reader is right there, off camera, and deliver the lines the way you would based on the scene, but don't do normal lines too big, like if you're trying to yell to someone. Like if your reader is on the phone and your reader can't hear you that well, you don't want to have to increase your volume so loud that your performance suffers because you're trying to let the reader hear you. You need to make adjustments beforehand, rehearse with your reader over the phone, and make sure they can hear you and that you can hear them and that they're not too loud also. You don't want the reader overpowering you. Like if the reader's on a speakerphone and you have the speakerphone right next to the camera, you don't want that, because your sound will be louder, your reader's sound will be louder than yours. And again, distracting. You don't want anything to take away from your performance. You're getting the casting person or the producer or the director to look at you. You want them to focus on you, on your talent, on your ability, not be distracted by the reader doing something weird or being too loud or being, taking too long or whatever error a reader could be performing. You don't want that to distract from your performance, from your audition. Always do a test take. I mentioned that earlier. You want to, if someone's on the phone, if someone's in the room with you, you want to do a test. You want to do a test roll. If you decide to do the first take always do a second take to see if you can do it better. Maybe a third take. Sometimes, to be honest, I do mine on the first take because a lot of times my first take is my best take. So you have to have that confidence in yourself and your performance. But I always recommend, even if your first take is good, do a backup tape. It could be better, a backup take. It could be better. So you want to at least do a rehearsal before you and the reader starts, especially if they're called in on the phone. And you don't have to tell the reader, but if you and the reader are in the same room or you and the reader are on the phone, you do a test take so you can hear the reader. And if the reader's too loud or the reader's too low or the reader's reading too fast, you want to have the reader speak at a natural tone. The reader's not trying to audition, but you need a natural conversational tone from your reader also. Again, like I said, a couple of times I was asked to retape, and it wasn't because of me, it was because of the reader. The casting director thought the reader was distracting. So you have to have that in mind. You want the reader to be normal pace, normal level, not overpowering you, not doing anything like eating or eating during the taping. You want the reader to be professional, and you have to be able to hear the reader. And if you're on the phone, cell phone and speakerphone, you may have a lag. So you have to listen to that. You have to listen to that stuff because, again, casting people, producers, directors, easily distracted. And you don't want to give them any other reason to say next and click yours off and go on to the next person. So be concerned with the reader. Do a practice take before you do it. And finally, keep it simple. A lot of people, when we do self-tapes, they dress up too much. You don't want to put on costumes. If you just so happen to have a police officer uniform and you're reading for a police officer, I recommend indicate your dress as a police officer. Maybe just wear the shirt. Maybe just wear a shirt and tie. Don't go overboard. Don't get on here with a doctor with a stethoscope and the head thing and the white lab coat, or dress up in some kind of costume that you think represents the character. You're going to be distracting. You're going to make them look at the costume and wonder why you dressed up instead of just doing your performance. Now you can indicate wardrobe. If you're a business person, you dress professionally. If you're a thug, you might dress a little bit down. Ratty t-shirt, maybe messed up shirt. You don't want to go too far with that either. You don't want to put dirt on your face. You don't want to, if you're dressed in some kind of ethnic role, you don't want to go too far. You can wear clothes that indicate it. You don't want to, if you're playing an alien, do not put on alien makeup and make your face green and dress up. Or if you're playing a homeless person, don't have everything, the bags and the dirt and all that, messed up hair. Indicate it. Maybe ruffle your hair a little bit, maybe wear a shirt. It's not buttoned all the way. So you can indicate your wardrobe, but keep it simple. Keep it simple. Don't use props unless they tell you to. Maybe you can use a cell phone at the most. No guns, no eating of the food, no drinking of the drinks that's going to be distracting. It's going to pull the viewer away from your performance. They're going to wonder why you're doing all of that. This person is not professional. You're not going to get up. You're not going to sit down into the scene. You're going to start, just like I'm doing right now. And sometimes they ask for your slate as a separate reel, and make sure you read the directions closely to find out if your slate is a separate reel, because you want to put that in as a separate file. Separate, when I say reel, a separate video file. You might turn in the audition and the slate separately. Or sometimes they say slate at the beginning, which is rare nowadays. And sometimes they'll say slate at the end and make it all one tape. So that's why you have to read the directions closely to see what they want. You don't want to go through all the trouble of submitting the audition, working on it, and then don't label the video file correctly. Don't separate the slate and the audition the way they asked you to. You want to pay attention. If you're really taking the time to do this and you really want to be considered, you need to follow all the directions and make sure you turn your tape in professionally. You don't give the casting director extra work to do. Even though you may think, oh, it's not a big deal for them to rename my file, but they're auditioning probably 50 to 100 people. Then they'd have to sit there and relabel 50 to 100 roles to be correct, depending upon how many they're giving to the producer or the director. So follow the directions. Keep it simple. Don't dress up in costume. Don't use prop guns or prop weapons. None of that is necessary in a self-tape, unless they tell you to do it. And that you'll know that in the directions. They'll tell you, use your cell phone, use a still camera. You know, sometimes you'll get things like that in commercial auditions where they'll tell you to use props because they want to see you drink a soda, or they might want to see you eat something. So only do it when told to do it. So those are some tips that will help you have a great self-tape. Follow those, and you'll be getting called in for some auditions and maybe booking some parts. I'll see you in the next one.